Peace. Peace. Peace be with you.
Our call to worship today is from The Great Partnership, Science, Religion, and the Search for Meaning by Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. He writes, Darwinism has immense religious implications. First, it tells us that God delights in diversity. There are, for example, 40,000 different varieties of beetles, an impressive number by any standards. And the God who created life in its staggering variety is clearly not a Platonist, uninterested in particulars. The rabbis sensed it better when they said, even those creatures you hold superfluous in the world, such as the flies and the fleas and gnats, they too are part of the creation of the world. Through all does the Holy One, blessed he be, make manifest his mission, even through the serpent, even through the gnat, and even through the frog. Biodiversity is a source of wonder to the psalmist. How many are your works, O God? You have made them all in wisdom. The earth is full of your creatures. There is the sea, vast and wide. There the creeping things beyond count, living things great and small.
Please join me in the opening sentences. We shall have to develop a more dynamic understanding of God in its company's creation, in its evolving story. Like a pianist in a silent movie, we can choose the metaphor of the jazz session that constantly makes new music by listening to what's happening around it and applying the best of the tradition to the current context. The genius of improvisation seems to be a metaphor for actual human experience. God invites us to join the music, to listen to one another, to keep the music flowing.
Welcome to Covenant. If you are seated on the outside of a row, you will find an envelope there. Please pass the envelope toward the middle aisle. In the envelope, there are visitor cards and celebration cards, and concern cards. We ask that if you are visiting, you fill out a visitor's card so that we can welcome you. The celebration and concern cards are a way to let us know of any prayer requests you would like to share. Please place any filled out cards in the offering plate later in the service. If you are joining us online, please email the office to let us know you are visiting or to share any celebrations or concerns. Our email is office@covenanthouston.org. I want to personally invite you to the Children and Youth Auction. It's after church on February 25th.
Good morning. I want to make sure you're aware of some things that are coming up. Can you believe it's the first Sunday of February? How did that happen? So it's First Sunday Food Offering. You know I forget to talk about it in the Time for Children, so I'm helping myself out. It's First Sunday Food Offering. So when we sing, following the Time for Children, if you'd like to bring your food offering up and place it at the communion table, you're welcome to do that. Also, on First Sundays, we give 100% of our cash offerings to a mission partnership organization. And this Sunday, 100% of the cash offerings will go to Hospitality Apartments. Coming up on February 18th, after church in the fellowship hall, we will have our first climate action gathering meeting. There will be conversation and a vegetarian meal. This event is going to be co-sponsored with the Social Justice Working Group and the Diaconate. So make plans to stay after church on the 18th. And then make plans to stay after church, as Lewis mentioned, on the 25th for the Children and Youth Auction. And in between those two, guess what? Valentine's Day this year is Ash Wednesday. So I want to personally invite you all to be my Valentine and come here on Ash Wednesday at 7:30. We'll have an evening service, our usual Ash Wednesday service, although perhaps glitter will be involved. You'll have to come to find out. And from 12 noon until 12:30 at the Rothko Chapel, J.C. Granis will be playing viola, and there will be an opportunity for just quiet reflection. So you have two opportunities on Ash Wednesday. Our scripture lesson this morning comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 16 through 23. To be clear, the I is Paul, not me. If I proclaim the gospel, this gives me no grounds for boasting. For an obligation is laid on me, and woe betide me if I do not proclaim the gospel. For if I do this of my own will, I have a reward. But if not of my own will, I am entrusted with a commission. What then is my reward? Just this, that in my proclamation I may make the gospel free of charge, so as not to make full use of my rights in the gospel. For though I am free with respect to all, I have made myself a servant to all, so that I might win more of them. To the Jews I became as a Jew in order to win the Jews. To those under the law, I became as one under the law, though I myself am not under the law, so that I might win those under the law. To those outside of the law, I became as one outside of the law, though I am not free from God's law, but under Christ's law, so that I might win those outside the law. To the weak, I became weak, so that I might win the weak. I have become all things to all people, so that I might by any means save some. I do it all for the sake of the gospel, so that I may share in its blessings. These are our sacred stories. This is the time for children, but you're all welcome to participate. Today, we're doing several things in one service, which we can do. We can do that. We're capable of this. We are celebrating Evolution Sunday today. We are ordaining and commissioning our deacons today. And, hi, Kate. We are also reading Paul, my favorite, today. So there's a lot going on. Let's focus for a minute on that ordination and commissioning of deacons. So maybe you've noticed in your bulletin, if you turn to the back of your worship folder, your bulletin, there's a list of the people who are paid, like me, and then there's this lovely line that says, get ready, it's at the beginning, members of covenant, and we take the word member loosely, anyone participating in covenant, ministers. So, while I might have a reverend in front of my name, and if you haven't been calling me Reverend Mayo, that's good news. Carry on with just my first name, that's perfect. You may not have a reverend in front of your name, but you're all ministers, every one of you. You may not have been ordained as a deacon yet. Just wait, it's probably going to happen. You're still all ministers. So what does it mean to be a minister? Paul has some clear ideas. We're not really going to dwell on that right now. What does it mean to be a minister? What do you think? Grayson? Never mind. Okay. Servant. Thank you. What else does it mean to be a minister? Helper. Encourager. Yes. Listener. Yes. Servant, helper, encourager, listener. Yes. Writer, certainly, absolutely. Teacher, absolutely. Companion, ooh, that's a good one. They're all good. That's exactly right. Carer, exactly. So we're all ministers because we all help take care of each other. We all help care for each other. We all work on our compassion and our empathy. We grow those muscles together. We are all listening to each other. We're trying to. And when we make mistakes, we're gracious with each other, right? This is the work of ministry. It's what we do together. One way we ordain particular people, like deacons and people who are going to get the minister title, is we have a service where we do a laying on of hands. So later in the service, if you stay, kiddos, we'll move a chair, and for those of grown-ups, just everybody, we'll move a chair here to the middle of this aisle, and Bridget, who's being ordained as a deacon today, will sit in the chair, and then every one of us, because we're all ministers, is invited to come forward and place your hands gently on Bridget's shoulders or the top of her head, wherever you would like to put your hands, and then whisper a blessing to her. And that's how we ordain. That's the way it's done here at Covenant. So you don't need to be ordained yourself to come forward and offer a blessing. Everyone is welcome. You also don't have to do it if you're not comfortable, but it's open to everybody. And there's a great biblical record of conveying blessing in this way. Jacob lays his hands on his children to bless them. It happens throughout the Bible. So that's what's coming up in the service. I'm very glad you're all here, and I'm very glad you're all ministers. It would be sad to be the only one. If you'd like to go to the children's area, you can do that while we sing.
So in our little theme of evolution here, I'm going to start with something my ninth grade biology teacher told me. So it's a Catholic school, and most of the teachers are Catholic as well, including Dr. Nordlow. So every time the class walks in, he begins with something that he or his wife wrote and read to his church. So that, of course, means that when I become a ninth grade biology teacher, I'm going to be reading the same thing to them. So it's usually not anything too important, and most of the kids are usually watching something on their computer anyway during it. But one stuck out to me, and I decided to listen to it. Not that I had a choice, because my computer was dead anyway. So that day, as part of his beginning of class speech, he told us a story. So he runs the Rocketry Club, and when that club was doing something outside on the sidewalk, something went wrong and needed to be cleaned up. And since Dr. Nordlow didn't want the blame to be put on someone else that was completely innocent, he decided to have the group at fault and him clean it up. But this wasn't the entire Rocketry Club. So the rest of the club, which was inside at the time, was too busy looking out the window and making fun of those cleaning up. So understandably, this made the cleaning group and Dr. Nordlow pretty annoyed. And this ticked them off because they saw a job that needed to be done, and they were mocking the ones that were doing it. He told us that part of being a man, and really this goes for anybody, is that you see something that needs to be done, and you do it. He told us, he said, we are not better than the work that needs to be done. I mean, nobody wants to be a garbage man, but somebody's got to do it, right? So what we need, and what would fix a lot of our problems, is just action. So, whenever we can, we just need to put aside our pride and do the dirty work. It's like what Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world. It starts with you. One of the most important traits of a good Christian is humility. I mean, really, if you just look up saint quotes or Bible verses about humility, you'll be surprised about how many good ones there are. And I mean, it makes sense. It was pride that changed angels into devils, and humility that makes men as angels. By the way, I got that by looking up saint quotes or Bible verses about humility. So to be humble is to reject praise from yourself and refer it to God instead. I didn't look that one up. That was me. Let's hold silence in our hearts. So whatever happens, just remember you're always evolving, and every chance is a day to do better.
We are celebrating Evolution Weekend this Sunday. Evolution Weekend was established by the Clergy Letter Project, which began in response to attempts by the school board in Grantsburg, Wisconsin, to limit the teaching of evolution in the schools. The number of clergy who were willing to sign a statement supporting the teaching of evolution was so overwhelming that the project went nationwide. It's a weekend to celebrate faith and science. We're also celebrating deacon ordination and commissioning this Sunday. And our lectionary gives us this interesting passage from 1 Corinthians. Listen again. To the Jews I became a Jew in order to win Jews. To those under the law I became as one under the law, so that I might win those under the law. To those outside the law I became as one outside the law, so that I might win those outside the law. To the weak I became weak, so that I might win the weak. I have become all things to all people. In other words, Paul adapted. He changed. He took on traits and characteristics that were most beneficial in his various environments. Kind of like that moth. Remember the moth and the smog? You with me? Come on. The theory of evolution by natural selection was first formulated in Charles Darwin's book, The Origin of the Species, in 1859. The theory has two main points, says Brian Richmond, curator of human origins at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. All life on Earth is connected and related to each other, and this diversity of life is a product of modifications of populations by natural selection, where some traits are favored in an environment over others. Paul was modifying, favoring some traits over others. The social sciences have long pointed out that we naturally bring out various aspects of our personalities depending on the people that we're with and our environments. Your personality doesn't change depending on your company, but you might notice that you engage in different behaviors or develop different habits around certain people. It's normal to take on varied facets of your personality when you spend time with specific people. So Paul adapts. He brings out characteristics and traits in order to do what he feels called to do. Dutch Catholic priest, professor, writer, and theologian Henry Nouwen was primarily interested in psychology, pastoral ministry, spirituality, social justice, and community. In his book, The Spiritual Life, he wrote, "Let us not underestimate how hard it is to be compassionate. Compassion is hard because it requires the inner disposition to go with others to the place where they are weak, vulnerable, lonely, and broken. But this is not our spontaneous response to suffering. What we desire most is to do away with suffering by fleeing from it or finding a quick cure for it. As busy, active, relevant ministers, we want to earn our bread by making a real contribution. And this means first and foremost doing something to show that our presence makes a difference. And so sometimes we ignore our greatest gift, which is our ability to enter into solidarity with those who suffer." Our culture has so very little patience with suffering. We're taught from a young age that the answer to "how are you" is "fine," or in some circles, "blessed," or in even more sanctified circles, "how are you, blessed and highly favored?" We are especially taught in many branches of Christianity that to be anything other than fine is to be out of favor with God, and so we lie. We lie about how we are. We lie about being hurt. We say, for example, "it doesn't matter," in response to an apology someone might offer. Only it does matter. Of course it does. And sometimes we're not fine. Of course we're not. I don't think pretending everything is fine is what Paul had in mind. I don't think this is the kind of adapting that we need to be doing. I mentioned last Sunday that I was able to hear Kate Bowler when she was in town 2 Fridays ago. There were several exchanges between Kate and Beth Moore, who was interviewing her, that continue to reverberate for me. I wanted their exact language, and even though I took notes, I didn't write every word. So I found an interview on Kate's podcast where they had a very similar conversation to the one I keep remembering. They were talking about suffering when bad things happen. Beth said, "The church so often seems to expect people to come to a place of saying, 'It was worth it.'" She continued, "I think it's just so sick that we get forced into a place where we think we have to say, 'Well, it was all worth it for this result.' Maybe they lost a child and they're a person of faith, and the church wants to get them to a place where they go, 'Well, it's okay, it was worth it.' I mean, what a sick thing to put someone in a position to do. No, we don't have to come to a place where we ever say that it was worth it. But we can come to a place where we say that God made it matter." On the podcast, Kate replied, "That's it. God made it matter. I love that." And then she went on to say, "Our pain may never have a purpose. It may not make any sense. It may never be worth it. But God will make it matter. Yep, that's it. That's it for me. I can go home now." God made it matter. The loving community made it matter. Presence made it matter. Nothing fixed it. Nothing fixed it. Nothing made the pain go away. And we hold it together. Together in the presence of the divine, together with each other. Our stories matter. Our experiences matter. We matter. Our scientists tell us that matter is anything that takes up space and can be weighed. In other words, matter has volume and mass. There are many different substances and types of matter in the universe. We have matter. We, all of us, take up space and can be weighed. We have matter. Good, yay, science. We also matter. We matter to each other and we matter to God. Good, yay, faith. Maybe Paul wanted everyone to know that they matter, that their pain matters, that their joy matters, that they're human and humans matter. Maybe that's why he was willing to adapt himself, willing to feature various aspects of his personality. Today, as we ordain Bridget O'Toole and commission our deacons, today, as we remind ourselves and each other that we are all ministers, today, can we adjust ourselves to leaning into being human rather than running away? Can we lean into the suffering and hold space for each other? Can we listen, truly listen, not to respond, but to understand? Can we search for connection and commonality? Can we celebrate this being human, sharing our laughter and weeping, sharing our deep knowledge with each other that we do matter, that our lives matter, our experiences matter? We rejoice with those who rejoice, and we weep with those who weep. This is our practice as ministers, this solidarity, this compassion, this empathy. These are our callings to our deacons and our calling to each one of us. It is my prayer, our prayer, that our community be marked by companionship, joining together, willingness to walk into the experiences with each other and hold space. Today, as we ordain Bridget, we're all invited to come forward and to place our hands on Bridget's shoulders or head and whisper a blessing. This ritual is always open to everyone. You don't need to be ordained or a member of this church. As part of this community, you are welcome to add your gift of touch and prayer to Bridget this day. As the deacon usher passes your row, if you'd like to participate, just come forward. And if you don't want to participate, that's fine too. Just stay seated. As you come forward or as you remain seated, as you think about what it means to be a minister, what it means to be compassionate, I invite you to hear this blessing, to hear it in your head again and again and again. You matter. You matter. You matter. Amen. Bridget, please come and be seated. And now if the rest of our diaconate will come forward and join Bridget for the Litany of Commissioning. Today we call this group to be our spiritual leaders in the coming year. Let us say why we have called them. Our call to each of you, Josh Apple, Annie Christensen, Amy Carone, Jeannie Jocelyn, Karen Klein, Nita Lenley, Moses Mason, Barbara McKittrick, Joe Milano, Bridget O'Toole, Nancy Preston, Lisa Spiro, Katie Tilford, and Susan Wagner is an affirmation of your gifts and an expression of our gratitude and respect for you. We do not call you to be different people. We call you because of who you are, generous with your gifts, aware of our needs. What do we ask of these spiritual leaders? We ask you to guide us on our journey together, to inspire us to recognize and share our own gifts, to encourage and comfort us, and celebrate with us when things are right. While we expect you to do certain tasks, we also ask that you give free rein to your imagination, insight, compassion, and capacity to love. In this spirit, together our community can deepen and grow. Do you, Josh, Annie, Amy, Jeannie, Karen, Nita, Moses, Barbie, Joe, Bridget, Nancy, Lisa, KT, and Susan, accept the call you have heard here today?
We do. We stand before you, committed to exercise our gifts with courage and compassion.
And what do you ask of us?
We ask you to be courageous and compassionate, to challenge and stretch us. We ask you to join with us on this sacred journey of exploration and discovery.
Let us go forth together in love, sharing joys and sorrows, triumphs and tragedies, seeking God's peace and justice both within and without. Would you pray with me? Holy One, we celebrate this day with Trinae and Brindlin, their marriage taking place this very day. We celebrate the gift of ministers, the gift of all of us, as we offer compassion, justice, kindness, care, as we offer creativity and challenge. Thank you, Holy One, for the gift of these wonderful, wonderful ministers who gather at Covenant each week to do the work of love. Bless us now. Hold us close. Help us to be patient. Help us to be impatient when we need to be. Impatient with injustice and impatient with cruelty. Give us grace. Keep us hopeful. How grateful we are to be part of the mystery and beauty of life. How grateful we are that we matter. Amen. Please stand in body or spirit. Join with me in the prayer of dedication. It's responsive. The world will say to you, I am violent. Respond by saying, I am not with my words and not with my actions. The world will say to you, we need to heal the planet. Start by saying, I don't need a plastic bag. Recycle, reuse. Start by picking up one piece of trash on your block. The world will say to you, there are too many problems. Do not be afraid to be part of the solutions. Start by discussing the issues. We cannot overcome what we ignore. The more we talk about things, the more we see that the issues are connected because we are connected. The world will say to you, we need to end racism. Start by healing it in your own family. The world will say to you, how do we speak to bias and bigotry? Start by having the first conversation at your own kitchen table. The world will say to you, there is so much hate. Devote yourself to love. Love yourself so much that you can love others without barriers and without judgment. When the world asks us big questions that require big answers, we have two options. One, to feel so overwhelmed or unqualified we do nothing. Two, to start with one small act and qualify ourselves.
Please join me in the affirmation of faith. Pure faith, exempt from doubt, does not exist. It is impossible to grow in faith without at the same time growing in unbelief. One cannot progress in faith without calling into question everything that one has previously believed.
And so, go in peace, go in compassion, go in empathy, go in justice seeking, go knowing that you matter. Amen.